All
All right.
right. Greetings, everyone. Kurt Hill,
So,
once again, joined with
Nick
Mr. David.
Lee,
What's
thank
up,
you.
man?
Not much, just eating fried chicken and drinking coffee at 6 p.m. on a Sunday. Just a casual Sunday in California.
As you do. Yeah, it's been beautiful up here in Washington. Um, I'm
Is it
sure
really?
down for you. Actually, you were saying it was raining before, but I mean, it's been gorgeous spring here. I'm excited for today. I really am.
Days ago one. I
You,
this is
you
a
know I am.
this is a movie.
Oh my God! Wait, I will be right back. You go into the
A
discussion.
summary.
Yeah, you go into the summary. I'll be right back.
Okay. So today we're talking about Videodrome by David Cronenberg. Basically, this movie is about a video executive of like a channel, like a TV channel. I think it's channel 83. His name is Mark Wes. Yeah, something like that. And it's basically he is a like a late night channel, like TV stuff, if you catch my drift, kind of adult content. And he is searching for new material, something that's new that's going to shock like the nation. And he comes across uh, this channel from his buddy who like intercepts it from a satellite, like a piracy thing. It's called Videodrome, and it's basically Videodrome is just torture, murder, and he just thinks it's going to be the next big thing. And then all of a sudden he starts hallucinating, and the movie goes on from there. I don't want to spoil too much. We'll get into it with the discussion, but that's kind of like the very basic skeleton structure that the movie's about.
Yeah.
Unless there's something more to add that I might have forgot.
Just yeah, it's Max Ren.
Oh,
James
Max
James
Ren. I
Woods'
don't know why
character.
I said
Yeah,
Mark.
Max Ren.
Max Ren. It's not. I don't know why I said Mark. Whatever.
But yeah, the David Cronenberg's 1983 movie. Yeah, everything you
Oh yeah.
said, Max Ren. He's like a sleazy TV president. Comes across this signal, and he's like, "Oh, it's just some BDSF snuff film." But then they discover the more they look into it, like some mental and physical changes start happening to the viewers of the show called Videodrome, and then they really get into the conspiracy behind it, and then that's really where the meat of the story is. It's a great one. So yeah, that's pretty much dead on the synopsis. Background of the movie: it's Cronenberg's eighth feature. Um, I think it's a pretty significant jump for Cronenberg from Scanners, his last movie, to this one. I mean, Scanners it's not a bad movie. It's certainly not great though. It's got its fans, but I mean, it's got severe pacing issues, and that's saying a lot because all of Cronenberg's movies are like an hour 30, and Scanners is like kind of hard to get through sometimes. There's lots of scenes where literally nothing is happening, and all the movie pretty much happens like the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes of that movie. Um, but yeah, that's the one that got Cronenberg off the map. He made a decent amount of money off Scanners, made this movie, and somehow this movie, I mean, the pacing is immaculate. Every scene is purposeful in this movie. You're never bored, especially with the effects and with the subject matter that this movie dives into. You're never bored for a second with it. It's got great performances from our lead characters here, James Woods and Debbie Harry. Um, but somehow it was a box office bomb. And I guess we'll kind of get into why we may think that, but I just don't get how Scanners made money, but Videodrome didn't, because they're both pretty weird movies
Yeah.
with pretty wild effects. Yeah, I mean, tonally they're pretty similar, like most Cronenberg movies, but this one just didn't make money. But now, in retrospect, we talked about this before. It's definitely a cult classic, and a lot of people are going to cite Videodrome as either their favorite or the best Cronenberg movie. That and The Fly, and I'd absolutely agree. This is definitely my favorite Cronenberg movie. I think it's also his best. I think it's slightly better than The Fly just because it's original subject matter and it's just a really insane story that's still relevant to this day. Whereas The Fly was, I mean, it's good and everything, and it's got Cronenberg's spin on it, but it was a remake of already existing Hollywood material.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, Cronenberg is really confident here, really subversive, really twisted, really dark, and that's why this movie's great, and that's why Cronenberg is great. I think this is where we really see him fully open up for the first time in his filmography, and he would continue that all the way to the current day. I mean, he's got a movie coming out later this year that I'm hyped about. I guess also some background. I mean, the first time I watched this is, by the way, if you couldn't already glean, this is like one of my all-time favorite movies,
Yeah.
Videodrome here.
Yeah.
Uh, and the first time I watched this movie was during coronavirus, which I mean, like most of us, what else were we going to do? We watched a lot of movies.
Yeah.
This is the first time I watched Videodrome, and uh, I was really drunk, and I put it on, and it's like midnight, and I'm like, what the hell is going on
It's
here?
not a midnight movie.
Well, no, it is
But it
because
is actually, yeah.
yeah, that is the perfect. Yeah, like what I'm getting at, I guess, with this is like that is how you watch this movie. Like,
I could just imagine you at 1:30 in the morning and it ends and you're just in
yeah,
there with in darkness, like just sitting there on the couch.
yeah, literally
What did I just watch?
laptop like on my stomach,
Yeah.
and the end of the movie, it logged up in a new flesh and just cuts. I was like, what the hell, man? What just happened? Let me just rewind
It's
to
kind
the
of hard
Debbie
to go to
Harry
bed after that.
parts.
Oh,
But yeah, crazy movie. Yeah, I obviously like all great movies. I don't think I really got the whole scope of it on the first viewing, and I was like, this is definitely one that I'm going to dive into again. And it gets better and better. And I mean, I think why this movie is great. And also, we've talked about this before. We both kind of like it is it's really relevant, and it's scary how relevant it is
yeah.
because it's a really dark subject matter.
For
Um,
1983, it's it's pretty legit.
yeah, it's I guess because it's more of a commentary on just media
Yeah,
consumption
true.
rather than
Yeah.
it is the medium
Yeah.
that they use it. It's just media consumption
Hmm.
distorts your view of reality and your perception of reality. And I mean, that's always going to be relevant. So it's fun. Something I thought that was also interesting. I'm getting long winded here, but Cronenberg got the idea for this movie um, from his childhood, where he'd be watching kind of programs where he flip the channel and see something like really
Hmm.
dark and really twisted that you're not supposed to see, something that's not like mainstream broadcasting.
Yeah.
And that was always kind of dark intrigue slash fear that he had. And I don't know if it's kind of universal because I also like watching TV as a kid had that kind of experience where I was like, if I flip the channels maybe too much, like, am I going to see something that I'm not supposed to see? I also had that feeling. And I think this movie kind of captures exactly the horror of if we ever discover that as a kid, what we would be seeing.
Did you not though? Because I was thinking about that a lot during the movie. Was it reminded me a lot of, well, when I was a kid, like 1 or 2 in the morning, if you stayed up late enough, some of those cable channels would, turn into some pretty heavy,
Yeah.
hardcore material. And like I would sneak out in my living room and like my dad's just fucking on the couch, just 2 in the morning watching. And it like, and that I think that's why I really in a weird way connect with the movie because I remember that where it was almost like the hidden side of television, the
Yeah.
side that like you're not really supposed to be up that late watching TV. Like even back then, like before, YouTube and Instagram Reels and stuff like that, like you never really stayed up that late to watch TV because the later it got, the more hardcore it got, I guess.
Yeah. And there's
Did
something
you
like,
never experience that as a kid? You never like stayed up late enough to where those
no,
channels
that's
turned
what I'm
into
saying. Like I had
content?
that experience. I
Oh,
had that
you
exact
did.
same
Okay.
experience.
Yeah.
And the one that I pretty viscerally have always remembered was I've never been able to find the trailer, and I've been looking for years now. Like,
It's like lost media.
well, literally, I've been looking for about 20 years now of this clip that I saw when I was a really young kid. And I've never been able to find it, but I can see it exactly in my head still
Yeah.
as when I did then. It was like this really decrepit girl in like drag clothing, walking along a highway, and then she gets picked up, and then she murders a dude who picks her up.
Bro,
And
your own personal Videodrome. What the heck?
well, yeah, literally. And I mean, I always
Yeah.
remember seeing that, and that scared the
Yeah.
hell out of me when I was a kid. And I've been always, and like, it was definitely like a trailer because,
Yeah.
it was a very brief, like, viewing of it before I flipped away, I guess. And I've been trying to find a trailer for that. I've been looking like 2004, 2003, like trailers of like that kind of type, and I've never been able to find it. I think it might have been like a Masters of Horror episode, even. That's
Yeah.
probably what would fit the bill the most, but I don't know.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, you had your own legit Videodrome experience. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's no, I always remember that. And I've been searching for that for years. So, I mean,
Really?
around that era, 2004, like some
Yeah.
kind of movie or some kind of TV show where a really decrepit, rundown girl like kills a guy who picks her up on the side of the road. It was scary.
Yeah. Dang.
But anyway, Videodrome.
Um, Obviously the best introduction is when they're on that TV, like the news channel, and they're
Yeah.
all there because I mean all the characters there, right? Nikki's there, Max is there, even Professor Oblivion's there.
Yep.
Um, and I think for Max, I wrote down this specific quote where basically she asks him like why do you do this, like why do you run a channel like this, and he says that it was a harmless outlet for people, and I wrote down the harmless outlet theory because I mean we still talk about it to this day when
Yeah.
we talk about pornography because people who really promote pornography and say and stuff like that use that as the theory of like hey this is like the best way, this is the best outlet, and like technically it's a theory because we don't really know. um and I think he also talked about oh no, Nikki talks about it. It was like stimulation for its own sake.
Yes, we crave stimulation for its, yeah.
Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to on your thoughts about Max and like that idea because I think he keeps that idea going throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
about that.
Max as a character, I think James Woods is a perfect casting for this kind of character because it's like every character he plays in every movie where he's kind of a fast talking, seedy dirtbag,
Hmm.
but I mean, he's also
Super
very smart.
charismatic.
Yeah, he's definitely charismatic. He's really smart. I mean, he usually plays villains, but here he's pretty much the hero because he's a
Yeah.
victim. Maybe not because he's like a through and through great guy, obviously, but because he's definitely a victim of this really weird
Yeah, like a
phenomena.
flawed hero. Yeah, and like even his own character introduction when I mean, he's making coffee in a really nasty apartment, right? And he like eats the pizza slice or whatever. It's
Yeah, yeah,
like, he's like you from the very beginning, like his character is slightly sleazy and dirty, and I actually kind of like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think, and like, he is the stand-in for the audience in this movie, 100%,
Oh yeah.
because he is just as overwhelmed, even though he doesn't like really show it because he's very cool and collected on the outside. The way he acts it though is brilliant because like you can see in his what I've noticed every time I watch this is in his eyes, you can see he's absolutely terrified and he does
Yeah.
not know what's happening. And his literally eye acting in this movie is so key into just like the type of fear that he feels and just the confusion that we feel as the audience. We don't know what's real and what's a hallucination.
Oh yeah, I love
And
that.
he's able to do that perfectly. And I think the best example of this is um, when Nikki seduces him through the TV. And
Yeah.
when Nikki seduces him through the TV, you get lots of shots of the TV, obviously, and the bulging out and her saying, "Come to Nikki," and it's just the lips.
The heavy breathing.
Yeah. And, like the TV's moving and everything, incredible effect. But you get lots of shots of James Woods looking at the TV, like pretty head on. And his eyes are moving, and somehow he doesn't say a word. He doesn't even move his mouth. but he's able to convey that he's completely confused. He doesn't know what's going on, but he's absolutely entranced by it.
Yeah.
And he's just totally enamored by Nikki, but also really confused. He doesn't know if it's a hallucination or not. And then ultimately, he puts himself into the TV and is seduced by Nikki through it. But again, his subtlety in portraying his character here, I think, is just right on the mark.
I had actually trouble with um Nikki's character or Deborah's character a little bit. Because I sat and thought about it, and like I guess I don't really understand her place in the movie. Like I almost felt like if she wasn't there, that it would have been pretty much the same. But then I also feel like I'm wrong in a way. And I was wondering if you had a good like way to talk about her character. Like, was her character the introduction for him? Because it wasn't, like I,
Right.
I, I think he would have still went down the same exact path. But
Yeah,
I was a little confused at like the purpose for her character a little bit. If
maybe.
you feel like
But
you have a better understanding of like her purpose.
yeah, I mean, the way I see Debbie Harry's character, Nikki, is that, I mean, she's basically the personification of porn, and she
Oh,
is porn incarnate. And, I mean, she even says on the talk show, like, we crave stimulation for stimulation's sake. And she's wearing the red
yeah.
dress. And
Oh,
she's
right.
she's very masochistic and
And she says
willing
that
to be
line.
degraded.
What did she say? She's like, I live in a highly excited state.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great. Okay, that
And
helps me out a little bit. Put her character in the right spot in my mind because, like, yeah, I was struggling with that.
and that's the thing, she's kind of like the siren, right? Because like
Oh,
Videodrome's there,
yeah.
and Max Ren initially sees Videodrome and he's like, oh, this is great stuff. Like, we're going to make money off this. We're going to show it. And he's not interested in it, really. Like, even when he's on the talk show, he's not interested in it. He's like, he comes up with, like, oh, it's just, I'm an outlet so that these people
Oh,
don't do
warm
it on the
out.
streets. But he's concerned about the business of it. And he's not interested in, like, consuming it himself until Nikki is there, and
Yeah,
Nikki is the one that kind of leads him down this dark path. And like that's when she's seducing him in person, like
yeah.
at the apartment, she wants him to put Videodrome on and he doesn't want to do it. And
Oh,
then
right.
she
Yeah,
wants him to hurt her.
yeah.
She is so consumed by the Videodrome and she is that seduction point for him. And then that's when he really goes down the rabbit hole of Videodrome.
Yeah.
And that's when he becomes obsessed because then he starts hallucinating about it. And he starts thinking of her and he starts thinking about the sadomasochistic fantasies that happen in Videodrome. So she's kind of that siren, and
Yeah.
ultimately, she becomes the face of Videodrome. She's the face of seduction and porn and sadomasochism. And it's that element that draws us into this world. And then
Mhm.
that's the world that ultimately warps our sense of reality. Because, like, again, and if you want to relate it in real life to porn, like, I mean, even as a kid or as an adolescent adult, like everyone knows porn exists and it's out there. But there's usually like that one time when you're seduced into it, and then that's when you're caught in it. And
Yeah.
that's when you're in that world, and that's when it changes, you know, how you see certain things.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down. I can't remember at what point in the movie, but it was the idea of like the innocent introduction.
Yeah, that's
Um,
her because he even though like he's kind of set up as like this
yeah,
low life kind of seedy guy, he's
he isn't
not.
quite that.
No, he's not morally
Yeah,
debased. He understands it's trash and he
right.
doesn't consume it, and he doesn't really understand it even either. He
Mhm.
doesn't understand why Nikki wants to watch it and be hurt by him, and he does it, and then starts hallucinating about it and starts hallucinating about
Yeah,
Nikki, and then he even sees himself in Videodrome with the whip whipping the
yeah,
TV, and the TV's Nikki, and she's moaning. So he
yeah.
becomes part of it.
Well, dude, and that scene in particular kind of reminded me. of you've heard of the Milgram experiment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where they like sat people down and shocked a participant behind like, well, a fake participant.
Right.
That scene in particular really made me, it reminded me of that in particular because I mean, at first he was just whipping the TV like, huh, like
And
this
then
is
he
weird. I don't like this.
he
But
gets
then
into it.
all of a sudden it like got like more and more intense. Um, yeah, that was just a offhanded like that scene really reminded me of that. Um, Kind of just like this ramping up of intensity. And I feel like that
Exactly.
the movie really comments on that aspect of the like a consumption of media where it's like this innocent introduction, you know, to something like pornography, and it just leads to like more and more stimulation, and like you have to consume more and more to get the same outcome, I guess.
Exactly.
But
Because it's
yeah,
all about like that awakening moment, right? And
yeah.
then you go down the hole. And that's pretty much like when
Oh yeah,
Max and
like
Nikki are at the
awakening.
apartment watching Videodrome and then, kind of having foreplay type interaction with each other involving cinemasochism.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then he starts hallucinating from there.
And then Professor Oblivion.
Mhm.
His character is funny. Just I mean, obviously watching it for a second time, we know like his character. But I remember watching it for the first time, and I remember the revelation that he was in fact dead for almost a year at that point, and that now watching it the second time during the interview, when he says the famous line, uh, "TV has become the retina of the mind's eye." Uh, I
Right.
know they kind of explain it in the rest of the movie, and I love how they put that at the beginning, or I love how Cronenberg puts that at the beginning of the movie, so it kind of stays in the back of your mind. But like, what do you think about his introduction into the movie, into like the the overall narrative and like,
It's perfect
yeah,
because he's a very quirky character, but he's that way because he knows and he's ahead of the curve, is pretty much like his whole character. He sees that this media consumption is going to in itself consume the population, and society at large is going to be so invested in media and this new form of entertainment and discourse and discovery that he decides to fully immerse himself in it. And in a sense, he makes more or less an immortal version of himself. Because,
hmm,
yeah, the revelation is he's been dead this whole time, but he's recorded tens of thousands of videos. And that in itself, he's been alive the whole movie, but physically he's been dead.
right.
And, that's kind of like it's been discussed in other movies, but this is definitely one of like the first movies that gets into the sort of, well, leaving your legacy through digital means, through recorded means, more real for people than what their actual physical day-to-day life is. And I think that's what it's really commenting on, is people want to be ahead of the curve, people want to be involved and want to be in it, and so they create a different personality that fits that and that lives that life. And you see that with influencers these days.
Yeah,
Influencers.
that's where I was gonna go with next.
Exactly.
How,
That's the whole culture that this is commenting on, this influencer culture. Like these
yeah,
people are basically caricatures that,
of themselves.
yeah,
Yeah,
perhaps or totally fabricated caricatures that are purely invented for the sake of being an online personality, and it's totally
yeah.
separate from their physical self.
And the professor, like, I think he even says it in like the interview where he's like, whatever's on TV manifests itself in real life. So
Yeah,
whatever we see on
yeah.
TV is what is real life,
Well, that's the
whether
thing,
or not
because
it's true or not.
it influences our real life perceptions. I
Yeah.
mean, people could watch this and they have a perception of the movie Videodrome, and that's real. That is a
Hmm.
real perception of something that was conveyed to them through a medium that is not normal conversation or discourse.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, he's just ahead of the curve, and I think his introduction is perfect because he's on the screen and everyone else is sitting down talking more traditionally in the chairs, and he's like, "You don't get it. This is my TV name. This is my TV
Oh, the
personality."
TV name. Oh, I love that. I can't, dude, what a wild thing to say in 1983, like that everyone will have their own TV name.
Exactly, because
So,
it's a separate
yeah,
character that you've created.
I just love how they almost predicted that.
Oblivion is aware. He's aware, he's ahead of the curve, he's involved. His daughter, same thing. Nikki, same thing. Max is not aware. And
Yeah.
that's why I think he kind of fits more as the audience stand-in. Max is like kind of the only one who's not aware. He's the only one who's not in on it, and then he's like recruited into it. But everyone
Yeah.
else is aware and involved, and it's like scary.
Wait, yeah, and that's another shocking moment in the film, finding out that his piracy partner who finds
Yeah,
the
Harlan.
Videodrome frequency isn't actually innocent
No,
either. I thought I love that part.
exactly. The whole point was to recruit those who aren't aware into being a
Yeah,
part of it. And, is that saying something about like modern media outlets like Facebook and X? And is their purpose to like those who aren't aware, like recruit them and like, more membership and like more people in on, creating a social media profile or whatever? Like, is it
yeah,
commentary on that? I mean, no, because this was 1983. But can you apply it to that? Absolutely. That is absolutely what's going on. And that's the thing. It's like it's scary when you're not when you're outside the circle, but this movie is basically saying it's even scarier when you're inside the circle.
yeah. Before we started the episode, I was gonna try to defend myself in terms of how I think the algorithm is Videodrome, or at least the idea of Videodrome.
Oh, I think I'm gonna get where you're going
Do
with
you get where
this.
I'm going? I mean, because the whole idea of Videodrome
It's controlling what we see.
is
Yeah.
to control what you see, and that's exactly what the algorithm does. It perfectly curates the content that is fed to you on your on your TV, on your phone. Um, and uh, I think my favorite part is, you know how Zuckerberg and all these big tech bros are like, yeah, I don't let my kids on these apps. There's a very specific moment when Max goes and he puts like the device on his head to
Right,
record
right.
hallucination.
Yeah.
Uh, and he goes, "Do you mind if I step out for a minute? I can't cope with all the freaky stuff." I love
Yeah, I do remember that
it.
line.
That just reminds me of these big tech bros who are like, "Yeah, I don't consume anything on my own media platform
Right.
because it's I think like because it's just it's Videodrome, it's the algorithm, it's curating exactly what your brain wants to curate, and it's almost creating your own little bubble, your own little hallucination in life,
Right.
and it creates these influencers who are just like who live in their own world, their own little Videodrome.
Well,
uh,
yeah, your own echo chamber, your own personal circle of consumption.
yeah.
Doom scrolling has
Yeah, it's
arisen from this.
the
Like,
perfect description of it. And like I think even in the movie, they talk about it being a philosophy and being like I think they literally use the words to control the masses. Like they haven't released Videodrome yet. And they were just, they're gonna use it to control the masses. And it's so hard not to make parallels with the way the algorithm works and the curated content. Um, but yeah, that was a segue into when I was watching it and he records the hallucination, they
mm,
never go back to they never fully like he never takes off the helmet. He just wakes up in his room. And I always I'm for the rest of the movie, I'm like, huh, is this just
is
a
it? Is
reported hallucination? Or
yeah.
you wake up from, whatever happened, after, did they take the helmet off of him and bring him home? because that was the scene he wakes up next to the Romanian old lady that he is with, and like she's like dead in his bed,
Yeah.
like, and he freaks out, and
And
that's
then
like
there's
that's when the real descent into madness happens.
right. I still don't know if like really what's a hallucination, what's not, if the ending is real or not. And that's kind
Yeah,
of the point of the whole movie is at a certain point we just don't know what is an original thought versus what is something that we've been influenced by, I guess.
making me think of AI. Like now it's so
In what sense?
well, it's so good that we don't know. We like AI video can be so good now that we don't even know if it's real or not.
Sure.
And it's kind of scary. Like I think even voice AI is
It's
getting
so
to that
accurate.
point. Yeah, I think I read something about like someone did like a Mr. Beast thing and they raised like $1 million and it wasn't him. And I was like, whoa, the guy like they actually used AI voice to just steal $1 million from a bunch of people, which I was like, whoa, that's wild that they were
Right.
able to create a false illusion, a hallucination, as it would be in the movie. We were just talking about like some of your last notes, and then
Yeah, let's talk about the effects because
oh my gosh, yeah,
I
so
mean
good.
that's
That
probably what this movie's most known
oh,
for. Like just
yeah,
crazy practical effects.
blew me away. I
Yeah.
love the way that it happens too, because it zero, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden the VHS tape fucking breathes.
Yeah,
Like,
just yeah, when it
and then,
moves, like again, James Woods'
oh,
reaction.
so good.
He doesn't
Yeah.
say anything. He barely
No.
even moves his face, but his eyes, he's like,
Yeah, and he drops it and he's
it's
oh my
exactly what
God.
I would do. Like
Oh yeah. It was
he's
a
just so
perfect
freaked out.
reaction. I thought that was so good. And
Yeah.
then yeah, and then he puts it into the TV and Debbie Harry does her thing. Yeah, I would do the same thing, dude. I would do the same thing, bro.
I'd be jumping in there.
I would be
I'd be like,
slamming my face. Yeah, I would be crawling through that TV, dude. Oh man, yeah. I did. Oh, I wish I looked it up before we did this. But do you know how they did that? Do you know how they made the effects? Please explain to me because I'll be the ignorant viewer. I like. I'm actually interested in how they did that. I think if I had to
absolutely.
guess, at least like the TV was like a projection behind. Okay. I kind of thought I was like the only way to make that work is if it was projection, but
Right.
explain it for me because I don't remember. I don't
Yeah,
know.
real quick, Rick Baker did the effects for this movie.
Yeah.
Did the effects for American Werewolf in London, which is also another movie that's cited as like one of the all-time practical effects movies, and for good reason. They're very good. It's like pretty much American Werewolf in London, The Fly, and The Thing are
Mhm.
like the best practical effects movies. This is right up there with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely right up there with it. And again, just because it's like just how weird they are, like, and it's so unsettling, and it's so like a mixture of like that analog tech horror infused with the body, the physical body. It's so creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the TV, they used a dental dam, and they had that dental dam because you could like put a fist through it, or put like the gum
Yeah.
through it, or whatever, or put a face through it, and it would stretch the mesh out, and then
Mhm.
they rear projected on that dental dam,
Oh, okay.
and that's how they made that TV.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then all the rest is like really good makeup work, like the gun hand, and like I don't know how they made the Betamax move that one. I don't
The
know how they.
Betamax move?
Yeah, the
What?
VC. It's actually a Betamax tape.
Oh, like how they made that one? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how they made it like pulsate and
breathe.
shit. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. But yeah,
Oh, that was so good.
the chest vagina is just a
Yeah, okay,
prosthetic.
so you guys, did you call that too? That was my first
Yeah, I
thought.
mean that's
Like,
what it
is that
is.
like a vagina?
I mean, again,
I mean, I
overtly
think they
sexual
like
themes in the
hinted.
movie.
Yeah, they hint at that too, right? Yeah.
Well, also the alternate ends of the movie, it's pretty much confirmed. I'll get into that later, but it's pretty
Oh,
much
okay.
confirmed to be a sexual organ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. And again, that's the whole thing. It's like
True.
the way porn interacts with the physical body and changes your perception.
Yeah.
Again, like creating a physical organ is just another way of showing that, I guess.
Hmm.
Very Cronenberg.
I think my favorite effect was when his his partner, like he goes to see his partner in like the glasses store, and the partner is like, "You're ready for the next step," and he like sticks the meat VHS tape into him, and then
Yeah, yeah.
then he like eats his hand, and it's like a
Yeah.
fucking grenade on his hand. Dude, I thought that was so good. I was like, "Oh my God."
My
The
favorite's
only
definitely the
the
TV.
only misstep for that one in particular was when the grenade exploded. There wasn't a big explosion of meat and flesh. He just sort of disappeared. And I was like, I feel like there was a good moment for a lot of like blood and guts. But I mean, maybe it would have been too much there, but I feel
Yeah,
like
it
that might have
was.
been a small misstep. But
I read something about that. It was scripted differently.
oh, was it?
I forget what happened to where it came out different than how it was scripted,
Okay.
but it was supposed to be, I
Yeah,
think,
that
a
was the
lot
only
more.
odd. That was the only odd part in terms of the practical effects. So it's like, oh, that was weird. I feel like there was should have been more guts, but wow,
They didn't have a crazy budget for this movie, but hey, who knows?
they used it very well if they
Oh,
didn't have.
absolutely. Cronenberg always
Yeah,
uses it because he never has a big budget, but he always
yeah,
uses it really well. My favorite effect scene is definitely with the TV when Max like really starts hallucinating. It's the come to Nikki scene, and part of why I think that's my favorite is Debbie Harry, but the score and the score of this movie is so creepy.
yeah.
And I looked into it and I found out why it may seem like pretty unsettling because Howard Shore, he scores like all of Cronenberg's movies, does a phenomenal job with this one too. And it really highlights like the hallucinatory parts because
Yeah.
it's very like creepy pulsing synths, and
Yeah.
how he did this I think is just so cool. So I'm gonna tell you how. uh, he had his orchestra and he recorded the whole score with his orchestra, and then he programmed it into a Synclavier 2, which is one of the first digital synthesizers.
Hmm.
And the orchestral performance for the orchestral score is now programmed in the synth. And then he replayed that score with a very small orchestra component. And
Hmm.
so that's where it's like you don't really know like what's synthetic and what's not. And like it kind of
Yeah.
like goes in with like the hallucinatory aspect of like what is like a real instrument or what is just that digitalized sound of the
Yeah.
other
Yeah. Yeah.
orchestra. Like it's weird. And I think that was just really
Yeah.
cool how he did that.
No, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. And that paired with like the original trailer for this movie is like the perfect. I think a lot of people our generation would like it because like that sort of like retro analog horror
Yeah.
is very much an aesthetic that people of our generation grasp to. I mean, that's why Stranger Things is such a huge show.
Hmm.
And I think this is like pretty much like the perfect movie that encapsulates that
Yeah.
aesthetic. And yeah, if just watch the trailer, the original trailer of this movie is
It's good.
really creepy, really weird,
Yeah.
just like the whole movie. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because I thought that his whole thought process for making that score is just really cool.
Very what's the word? Not adept, but very relevant to the movie itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the mark of a good team right there because David Cronenberg and Shore, I mean, they work together on all of their projects. And at this point, like Shore knows what Cronenberg is going for, and he doesn't just, record a score. He does it with a methodical process that fits the
Mhm.
theme and the tone of the movie. And it excels because of that.
Yeah.
Um, think I'm ready for some parting shots on the movie.
Some funnies.
Yeah, that's the thing. This movie is just creepy and unsettling all throughout. It's very good and I love it a lot, but it kind of doesn't, like most Cronenberg movies, it doesn't let
Yeah.
off the gas at all.
I think the funnies are more like kind of subtle and on a personal basis. Because I think there were funny moments. The first funny moment for me was when Max goes to see Nikki in her radio studio, and like the lady is
That is
talking to her on
funny.
the phone,
Yeah.
and she just goes, "No, it's your fault." And I was just like, "Oh my God."
Or when he's just like, "Can I ask you out to dinner?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the
He's like,
news
"I'm
reporter's
really
like,
sorry. Can I
"We're
go?"
doing a show here," and he's like, "I gotta ask you to
Yeah,
dinner." Like,
that part was pretty good. I was like, "Oh my God, dude." Um, yeah, that one was funny. And then after that, what were some other funny moments?
I mean, just more like James Woods' performances in some places, just because he's
True.
always basically the guys on Red Letter Media put this best. He's basically always doing a shit post. Like that's kind of just how he acts.
Obviously, the come to Nikki moment's kind of funny, just in its absurdity. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, like it's hard not
yeah.
to laugh at that sometimes. Um, and the grenade scene even too is pretty funny. Like it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
That's the
Um,
thing. The end of this movie is really abrupt.
yeah. Yeah, I always thought that was kind of weird. He just like goes to a condemned boat in the harbor. I didn't know how that fit into Toronto. Maybe that's some Toronto thing that like maybe if you lived there,
Maybe.
you kind of understand that a little bit more. But I thought that was such a weird direction that it went, where like I understand him skipping town, but I was like, the harbor? That was kind of weird. But
Yeah, if anyone Canadian knows any significance of that,
yeah, I thought that was
I'd like to know because I agree. I also don't know why he goes into that derelict ship afterwards.
yeah. Maybe there's some symbolism there that I guess us small-brained Americans don't understand, but
I
I
don't
don't.
know.
But
It's the ending
I,
just happens really quickly in this movie.
it does. But what do you think, though? Do you think that it was a good ending, or do you think it kind of left stuff on the table?
I think it's a good ending. Um, I kind of like as messed up as it may seem. I kind of wanted the alternate endings to be in the original cut.
Yeah,
And I'll get into what those alternate endings are because I think they
go
kind
for
of
it, dude. Go right
they
into it.
they fit in more with like where the story is like telling you it's going the whole
Yeah.
time
Hmm.
rather than just ending it on that shot. And I think it's a good shot to end on. I think it is a really good ending, and I think it being abrupt works
Yeah.
because that's it. Like he kills himself. There really isn't a need to go any further.
Go further.
He has become part of it. He's been convinced by Nikki to sacrifice himself into it.
Yeah. Turn into the new Flash.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't need an epilogue, and that's what the alternate endings are. The two
Oh,
ones that they penned are basically epilogues. And what was that? I well, they're both pretty much the same. One is where Max, Nikki, and Bianca are in Videodrome, and they're on the set of Videodrome
oh,
because
cool.
now Max has become part of Videodrome right after killing himself.
Right.
And so the three of them are on the set, and all of
Mhm.
them have like different sex organs. And that's kind of like the physical manifestation of what Videodrome has done to them, obviously. And now that they're in Videodrome, it's the full cycle, it's complete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another version of that ending is it turns into an orgy between them. And again,
No, that one would work as well as the other.
long live the new Flesh. But
Yeah. Mm,
he actually planned to show it, but then scrapped it.
yeah.
And I think it would have been fine if I think it would have been really cool, and I think it would have been really creepy if you see like the three of them kind of like in this detached video drum set, like just like
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
hanging out there, like in this new
yeah,
altered state of being. And that's why I think I would have liked it, because I think that that would be a really creepy way to end it.
yeah.
So that's what the original ending was going to be. But the ending as it is, I mean, it's really abrupt, but it
I
works.
like.
It
I think
works.
I think it's good because sometimes I do like it when movies, you know, tie the bow on top and completely close the movie and ship it out. But I feel like for a movie like this with the themes that it talks about, I think it's good to leave it like that because then it drives discussion afterward. you know
Yeah.
and
I,
like, I mean, even the alternate ending would still drive discussion, but I think this leaves it open-ended for us to interpret more of, which I think is perfect for movies like this.
right. And it probably does work better for the reason that it leaves the conversation open as to where was it all a hallucination or not.
Yeah,
Because if the scrapped alternate endings were in it, it's kind of like Videodrome is legit. They were
yeah.
corrupted by it.
Hmm.
Whereas this is like Max could have been hallucinating the whole thing
Yeah,
and he just killed himself. So it's probably better for that reason.
it just made me think of another funny moment when he shoots the guy who runs the glasses business and like
And he's
his.
just like,
Well, no, like he shoots him, and then
yeah,
the guy's on the ground. He's basically, his body like explodes, and you're like, "What the hell is happening?" I was kind of laughing. I was like, "That's a,"
that's where the
and,
budget went.
yeah, I was gonna say like an oddly grotesque scene that came out of nowhere. But I wonder if that was kind of a statement about that character in itself, where it was,
Sure, absolutely.
yeah, where he got shot, but the way his body like basically like exploded out of itself, I thought was an interesting.
He's
I don't.
completely corrupted.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
whole thing. Like
I
he's
think, yeah,
completely infected by Videodrome and he just like decays like in two
yeah,
seconds.
yeah. No, I thought that was interesting because his business partner said that doesn't happen. That's true because because when he goes back
Yeah.
to the TV, like his two business partners, they just get shot and that's it. But
Yeah,
the other
that's
two people that he kills who are part of Videodrome do die in oddly explosive and grotesque ways.
yeah, that's the
That,
thing because yeah,
yeah,
he's recruited by Videodrome to just kill innocent people, but then he
turns it around.
yeah, exactly.
Turns it around.
Yeah, long live the new Flesh.
Yes, death the
And
video.
he kills himself to be a part of Videodrome, and that's the new Flesh. So yeah,
Lovely. What a good movie.
yeah, it's I think it's Cronenberg's best. It's my
Mhm.
favorite Cronenberg. Anyone who's looking for a great example of just body horror, analog, retro tech horror, um, science fiction, a movie that talks about really relevant, disturbing topics of media consumption and how that, like, just how real is that sort of information to people, makes you think an incredible amount because it's visually disturbing, it's psychologically disturbing, and it's brilliant for that.
100%. Yeah,
Well,
I do that. I ain't got anything else. I thought it was great, and I love talking about it.
yeah.
Well,
Well, thanks for joining me again, Nick.
yeah, of course.
As always, a pleasure.
A pleasure.
And yeah, everyone go watch it. Debbie Harry. It's her best role, by the way, easily. And we'll see you next week. Bye.